Mike Wheeler's story in the 1980s is a powerful way to understand the psychology of a long-distance relationship in a time when love had to survive without phones in pockets, instant messages, or video calls, because his relationship with 11 shows how distance tests the mind, the heart, and identity itself. Mike is a normal boy growing up in a small town, but his emotions are big, intense, and serious, especially when it comes to love, loyalty, and connection. When 11 is taken away, hidden, or separated from him, what happens inside Mike is what many people in long-distance relationships feel, just pushed to an extreme. In the 80s, long-distance love was built on waiting, imagination, memory, and hope, and Mike lives inside all of those emotions. Psychologically, the first thing distance does is create absence, and absence is not just physical, it is mental. When 11 disappears, Mike does not just miss her body, he misses the feeling of being understood. For Mike, 11 is not just a girlfriend, she is someone who sees him and chooses him in a world where he often feels small. In the 80s, kids did not have the tools to constantly check if the other person was okay, so the brain filled the gaps. Mike's mind replays moments, words, and looks, and this replay becomes both comfort and pain. This is a key part of long-distance psychology because memory becomes a substitute for presence. You fall in love again and again with the idea of the person while waiting for the real one to return. For Mike, this causes emotional intensity. He becomes more sensitive, more angry, more loyal, and more stubborn because when you cannot act, you feel more. Another psychological layer is uncertainty. In a long-distance relationship, especially in the 80s, there was no guarantee of when you would hear from the other person again. Letters could be delayed, phones could be unreachable, and secrets were common. Mike lives in constant uncertainty about 11's safety and existence. This uncertainty feeds anxiety, and anxiety often shows itself as frustration or silence. Mike becomes quiet, then explosive, then withdrawn. This is not weakness, it is the human brain trying to protect itself from loss by preparing for pain. In long-distance relationships, the mind often jumps between hope and fear, and Mike lives in that swing every day. Hope tells him she is out there and will come back. Fear tells him she is gone forever. The brain cannot settle, so emotions stay high. Another important psychological part is loyalty across distance. Mike stays loyal to 11 even when other people move on, tease him, or tell him to let go. In the 80s, loyalty was not proven through constant communication but through waiting. Waiting became a form of love. For Mike, choosing to wait is choosing identity. He defines himself as someone who does not quit on the people he loves. This is important because long-distance relationships often force people to decide who they are when no one is watching. There is no reward, no attention, and no constant reassurance. Mike's loyalty gives him purpose, but it also isolates him. He feels different from his friends who can move forward more easily. This isolation is another psychological cost of long-distance love. You feel alone even when surrounded by people because the person you want to share your inner world with is far away. Communication in the 80s also shapes Mike's psychology. Without texting or calling whenever he wants, Mike talks to 11 in his head. He practices conversations that never happen. He plans what he would say if she were there. This imagined communication keeps the bond alive but also freezes it in time. 11 becomes almost perfect in his mind because there are no small daily conflicts to balance the fantasy. This is common in long-distance relationships where the lack of everyday reality can turn love into something fragile and idealized. When 11 finally returns, Mike struggles emotionally because reality never fully matches imagination. This does not mean the love is fake, it means distance has changed the shape of it. Another deep psychological theme is emotional development through separation. Mike is forced to grow up faster because love teaches him responsibility before he is ready. In the 80s, boys were not encouraged to talk about feelings, so Mike carries his emotions quietly. He does not have the language to explain his fear or sadness, so it comes out as anger, sarcasm, or stubbornness. This emotional suppression is very common in long-distance relationships, especially in that era where vulnerability felt risky and shameful. Mike's emotional struggle shows how distance can make feelings deeper but also harder to express. The brain feels too much while the mouth says too little. Trust is another core psychological issue. Long-distance relationships survive on trust, but trust without evidence is difficult. Mike trusts 11 not because he has proof, but because belief is all he has. In the 80s, trust was built on character, not access. You trusted who someone was, not what they posted or said every day. Mike believes in 11's heart, her loyalty, and her love, even when he cannot see it. This trust gives him strength but also vulnerability because trusting without control means accepting the possibility of pain. Long-distance relationships teach people how to live with uncertainty instead of fighting it, and Mike learns this lesson the hard way. Another psychological element is the fear of replacement. When you are far away, the mind asks scary questions. What if they forget me? What if someone else is closer? What if I am no longer important? Mike feels this fear deeply, especially as time passes. In the 80s, distance could erase people from daily life completely, so this fear was very real. Mike's jealousy and insecurity are not about control, they are about survival. He is afraid of becoming a memory instead of a person. This fear pushes him to hold on tighter, emotionally, even when he has nothing physical to hold. Identity is also shaped by long-distance love. Mike is no longer just a kid playing games and riding bikes. He becomes someone defined by care, protection, and devotion. His sense of self becomes tied to Eleven's existence. This is powerful but dangerous because when distance removes the relationship, it shakes identity. Mike feels lost when Eleven is gone because a part of him disappears too. This shows how long-distance relationships can merge identities when emotional connection replaces physical presence. The bond becomes intense because it has to carry everything alone. Finally, the psychology of hope holds everything together. Long-distance relationships in the 80s survived on hope more than anything else. Hope that the phone would ring. Hope that a letter would arrive. Hope that one day distance would end. Mike lives on hope. Hope gives his pain meaning. Hope turns waiting into purpose. Without hope, distance would destroy love. With hope, love becomes a promise. Mike Wheeler's story shows that long-distance relationships are not about distance itself, but about how the human mind reacts to separation, silence, and waiting. In the 80s, love was slower, heavier, and quieter, and because of that, it often went deeper. Mike's emotional journey shows that long-distance love is not weak or unrealistic, but intense, demanding, and transformative. It forces people to face their fears, sit with uncertainty, and choose love every day without guarantees. In simple terms, Mike teaches us that when you love someone far away, your heart does more work than your hands, your mind fills the space where the person should be, and hope becomes the bridge that keeps two people connected across time, silence, and distance.